No, now it's 2, I think.
2?
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3. Let's get some more. Have your hands. Some more. Let's get some more.
Why, hello, and welcome to my Whiskey Den, your favorite public access whiskey review show where craft whiskey is king. Thank you for being with us tonight. We appreciate it. Sorry I wasn't on last week. I was really kind of burnt out from work and kind of just got destroyed. So no, I didn't come on. And my apologies to that and everyone here and Mike and everyone else. But I'm feeling better now after a few more hours of sleep today. So I'm happy to see everyone back here. Mike, Mitch, how are you guys doing today?
Living that dream yourself.
Yeah. Mike's been doing organizational things at the office.
Cleaning up papers,
Just
cleaning up some paperwork.
He looks like he's going to be looking for a swing line stapler later on today.
Don't touch my stapler.
But so thank you everyone for being here in the chat. Before we go any further, Mike, do you want to tell everyone about the Bar Cart Co-op?
Sure, I'd like to do that.
I appreciate it. It does. I do appreciate it.
Okay. All right. And there we go. All right. So the Bar Cart Co-op is a collection of friends who create content for the whiskey and other distilled spirits public. The Bar Cart Co-op YouTube and Facebook pages have information about upcoming and past special shows, which happen about every quarter. From blind tastings to distiller panels to discussions of special collaborations and the usage of unique grains. Bar Cart Co-op has educational and fun episodes for your enjoyment. The oldest show in the group is Distillers Talk, hosted by Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. It is a conversation with people from distilleries and distillery adjacent, gets into the weeds with their interviews. New episodes arrive at the end of the work week. And if you don't think that is nerdy enough, check out One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. This is the show where Alan Bishop answers any questions about distilling and often puts them to the test. It could be individual grains, whole mash bills, equipment, and methodology. New episodes come out randomly, so subscribe. We also have Bourbon Turntable, where they mix the love of music with the love of whiskey. Kevin has conversations with musicians, writers, distillery folks, and common folks like us about music and whiskey. It releases every Wednesday on all of your platforms, including YouTube. There was one of the many two-part episodes that happened over the last couple of weeks with our friends Jason Bronner and John Wadle. Please check that one out. And coming up this week, it's Leilani Kilgore and Jeremiah Johnson, who are a couple of musicians that I'm actually going to see. They're going to open up for the Cold Stairs in St. Louis this weekend, and I'll be seeing them with Kevin. Then we also have If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything, which is a show about the spirits and paranormal among us, as well as the unexplained and the spiritual. Subscribe on Spotify to get the 3 previous seasons and the 4th season, which is currently in progress. And last but not least, we have the Whiskey Ring podcast with David Levine. David likes to do interviews, much like Distillers Talk, with people in the industry that he finds interesting, and he really also gets into the weeds with them. As we say, David does the things that we won't do.
And Kevin was saying the Absinthe Bar Cart show is on Leap Day this year.
Okay.
So make sure to check out the Absinthe episode.
It'll be good.
It should be. Which brings me to one of my questions here tonight is, let me get to the right banner here. We've got a slew of things on here. What is America's best spirit category? And I started thinking about that the other day because the obvious one for America is people are going to say bourbon, right? Like, because you invented that. That's what you're kind of known for. But at the same time, there's a lot of that's not very good, So I'm just being honest. There's a lot of it that's mediocre to kind of subpar that gets kind of passed along as being okay. So I was wondering, what is like the most solid category, or like, and it may very well be coming back to bourbon at some point. But I was, like with some of the other things that have had a resurgence or a surge lately, like some of the rise has been a strong category, or I don't know, like I thought we could at least rule a couple categories out, i.e., maybe vodka. We're not known worldwide for it, but we have had some very nice ones from America. But it's
Do
not
you want
Iceland.
Yeah. Not to dump on vodka, but does anyone want to be known as having the best vodka?
Well,
I mean, Russia, but okay, that's fine. That's an old thing. Is that something that we just still purer than you?
well, that gets into the like that whole section that Northern Europe where it's like Finland, Sweden. They all have their vodka brand or one or two that very strong in the market. You know what I mean? And for vodka, it's fine. Um, I don't know. I guess.
But would you agree that perhaps I'm not the most traveled person, certainly amongst anyone that's listening around here, but wouldn't you agree though that like for the vodka, it's like, oh, this is the best vodka here, best vodka there. It's not that you're necessarily connoisseurs in that area. It's your drink of choice to get plastered.
Well, I guess it's like home field advantage, right? Like you're there. This is what 90% of the people are going to be drinking. So I guess yes.
Your table spirit.
Yeah, but you would expect that to be a decent quality, right? Like it's one of those things where I'm like, if you're known for it, you don't expect to like fall on your face, most of the time. And like you'd expect a lot of people to take pride in it in the country. So
one would hope.
So I was saying like at least I think that if you do produce vodka in the U.S., I just don't think that would be America's best spirit category. I'll let you argue for a minute, Mitch, but I want one more thing before I let it go. Is that I feel like America is the reason for the Pinnacle vodka line that has 72 vodkas, and I think that's America's downfall in the fucking category because we're the reason for that shelf. And
freedom of flavors.
Okay, go on, Mitch.
From flavor as well, if you're 100% honest there. But no, I was going to bring up Pinnacle too. Like that was literally all I was going to say. Like think about Pinnacle, man. Like, oh, I feel like maple syrup vodka today, or maybe cotton candy vodka, or one of the 37 other flavors of vodka.
Yep, the Jelly Belly of vodka.
Well, if it were, I don't know. I like Jelly Bellies, right? I don't like Pinnacle vodka. Like the other flavors aren't. I don't know. They taste fake, to me. Yes, Mitch.
I knew someone who loved Dirty Shirley Temples, so Pinnacle Cotton Candy Vodka, Sprite, and Cotton Candy was like a 30-cent drink that I could just keep giving them forever, and they were just like, this is the best thing I've ever had. And I was just like, I'm a mixologist. Let's go. Like, so.
I have to ask Adina about that one. That sounds...
I mean, it is diabetes in a glass, right? Because you just effectively have a sugary soft drink with sugar-flavored vodka with sugar in it. So, like, it's not good, but some folks really go for it.
Okay,
Northern Waters cranberry vodka. That actually does sound really good, though.
Well, so I mean, like obviously there's some unique ones out there, like the huckleberry one, where I was like, where you have a different, actual, real flavor and not like a syrupy flavor to it, that I think is usually kind of a neat one. But I don't think that it's, America's a strong enough in that category to put that to be like this is America's best category.
Yeah, and I will say you mentioned huckleberry. I like the huckleberry vodka, and what I like about it is as a flavored vodka, however you want to call it. I don't know their process. It doesn't matter, but you don't drink it and you don't feel like you're drinking a Huckleberry Capri Sun. or something like that, where it's just loaded, where it's just got added ingredients and sugar to it. It's just this, you drink it and you're like, oh, it's just a very nice, refreshing flavor that comes out of it.
Sorry, I was reading Emily's statement. Oh, but yeah, like with that, like it's and the thing with that one and some of them is like you get more the more you pour in, you just taste a little more huckleberry. You don't almost taste vodka in that one, which is what's the disturbing thing. It just tastes like you're adding more huckleberries. Like I don't even realize there's anything in there. And I usually like to have a little bite. I usually like to know I'm drinking something, but that doesn't happen in that one. But so I felt like that's an easy one to maybe sidestep. Just because on the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Another one that and this one I may be underdoing, but it's not like we're England. If you're thinking gin, or London, at least London brings up gin to mind. And a lot of places that we'll travel to, if you're going on like gin tours, there'll be London, and I guess apparently Scotland, Ireland, and a couple other places over in Europe. There's not a lot of travel destinations other than, and going through each of these, I'm going to be honest, there's something going on in the Philippines because they're not high up on the list of like travel destinations for different spirits, but they're in the top 10. They're just under 5 for a lot of them. They're hidden in there for what's going on like with rum and with gin and other things. So it has to be the climate after the distilling, I would think, that creates some of the unique flavors there. But apparently I have to give a better look into the Philippines overall. Sorry, just a little nod to them. But where would you guys think, I'd say gin other than London is kind of like heavy? Is there any other place that like if you're mentioning gin that like pops into your mind is like, oh, this is a country that kind of represents, I don't know, jumps out as something from them? Like I said, vodka has a couple.
So I honestly think we're number 2. So America was actually pretty big in revitalizing gin.
That's true.
If you remember talking to
It's Freddie.
Oh my God, my brain just completely collapsed. The Three Chambers Still by
Oh, that was Todd
Leopold.
Thank you so much. That's embarrassing. One of my heroes, forgot his name. He, right, like his gin used to sell like gangbusters over in England because he was kind of on the forefront of like the American gin resurgence, where instead of making only London dry gin, like they decided, hey, you know what? It doesn't have to be juniper with just a little bit of something else. It can be something else, but juniper is, carried throughout. So when we were thinking about this, gin was actually my number 2 for America, like best spirit category. Because admittedly, I dislike so much gin. But that being said, as a country, we really revitalized, like we changed the category. And I think there's something to be said for that.
And I'll give you even more on that, because when you were mentioning Todd, I was thinking you were going to be going with Fred Swanson, where when they brought back Death's Door Gin, that was one that actually kind of, you said, revitalized it here. It actually kind of took over markets. I don't want to say took over markets worldwide, but put themselves into markets worldwide. And they've kind of reached back into doing that. So that is an excellent point, Mitch. That is because that I don't know if the average person thinks of it that way, but that is a good point to see how it has come back from where it was and all the excitement from it to put that high. I love it. Thoughts, Mike?
I was just going to highlight this one for Mitch, in case he doesn't have the other.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I skipped ahead. Sorry.
Oh.
Boom. There we go.
You said from Mitch, and I was like, That's not me, man.
Mitch has 9 accounts.
Yeah,
So
try.
in thinking about the topic itself, cheap, easy, and stupid answer to what's America's best spirits category. Obviously, it's bourbon. However, if you are going to be a new distillery, which I've heard other small distillers say this, or small distillers say it, is if you're going to start up, you're not going to compete with Wild Turkey and Buffalo Trace and Four Roses. You're not. So you can just come out with a really good bourbon, but you're not going to compete with them on price point or anything else. So what's a couple categories? One, hopefully, yes, it gets defined. American single malt. I don't know if I would necessarily. Let me get to my total point here. The two things that I would say is spirits that are not whiskey is still, to me, it's still open new area, Wild West in the United States. American single malt, I think that's huge, but I think America is able to do things with single malts that other countries are not because of our climate differences and because of what people are choosing to do with some of the other maturations and some of the other finishes and things like that. That's number one. Number two, but the alternative stuff is you've got somebody like what I have in my glass, the Biba Soju, or other unique grains. So you've got to distinguish yourself from somebody else. So should you make just another, for lack of a better term, but I'll use a scientific term, shitty gin that smells like a perfume counter at a cheap department store? Or should you come up with a gin that's actually flavorful, that the mixologists or bartenders, whatever title you want, like, and that you can actually drink? And I think that's where, that to me, that's more of the Wild West, because you've got people who are being more innovative about that and coming up with gins that are good to drink. Like there's some, I've had the gins that I've had that I like, and I'm, not a gin person, are from craft distilleries because they're doing something different and unique with it, because they can't just put out a shitty gin and survive. They've got to put out a good gin and be able to keep the distillery afloat, by pushing out some of these spirits. And I think things like gins, like Biba Soju or American single malt, or coming up with a weird liqueur, or the other one that I'll pull, throw some cassia in with, use that as your grains. Because again, you're not going to put out something that's going to go toe to toe with Wild Turkey Rare Breed and beat it, because you're just not. So that's my opinion. I'll get down off my soapbox.
Nothing wrong with your soapbox. I was just reading Kevin's. It's meant to be not really what is America's best craft spirit category, just because so much of what's craft in America, I don't think reaches international market to, give it, the clout it would on an international scale. So this is more just kind of encompassing what the world would think of us, but our own kind of an interpretation as well. So
I would say we've drank a bejesus load of craft spirits at this point in our life. So we talk about them a lot, right?
But I'm also, Ooh. Sorry, I don't even know what I just poured. I reached for something and it was delicious. I poured some I just reached for a bottle and I poured it out to have some. It was, Single Cask Nation, Virginia distillery one. Sorry. That was lovely. Struck a chord and threw me off for a loop. So I don't know. I like what you're saying with gin, because like you said, the resurgence in that Mitch is important, and it's. I think what you said, Mike, is true. I think when you go to a distillery in the U.S., the gin is going to almost be better than what you're probably going to get at a store, or at least have a more unique twist on it. That's all. I don't know. You'd have to ask Mike, Ben. Which release was this you sent me?
I just answered. It's the second one.
Mike, I can give you some stats. So, and then, but rum was another one where obviously the ones that are heavier, more interpreted ones are most of the Caribbean. But from what we've had of rums in the U.S. Lately, from what we've tried, I've been extremely pleased. I mean, from Privateer to, I mean, there's three or four other ones, and even just Island Getaway with where they were at with getting some of the flavors they were. I mean, even though those they weren't unaged, like a different type than some of the other ones. I've been really happy with the rum category. Now, I'm not a rum connoisseur, but I've actually been impressed by it. But maybe that's because I was a little too much of a knee up kind of rum guy before. Always talking to the captain. There was a large part of college that me and him got along. So I'm happy to see I don't want to say just unspiced because there's been some other spiced rums, but it's just better flavors. And I've been impressed by the rum category lately. Thoughts on rum in general, even though obviously it's not number 2 for Mitch.
It's not. I mean, I have had some absolutely fantastic American rums. Probably of my top 10 rums, at least half of them are made in America. But I don't know how much of that is I have been exposed to a lot more American rums than I have other rums, right? But I talk about it all the time, that King and Dane rum from Toledo Spirits, the silver, where they have just enough of that like funk back there to make it interesting. Absolutely gorgeous. Top 3 rum of all time. But that being said, if you were like, hey, you can only drink rum from America for the rest of your life, I'd be kind of sad.
I've had some stuff. I tried, and it wasn't just, I guess, just Captain Morgan fan when I was younger. I had a friend's dad who was into darker rums and other stuff. So I did try a variety, unbeknownst to him probably, from his collection. And I gotta say it was neat to see how different, I'm going to say islands basically, had a different flavor. Like there was a uniquely different twist to them. And when we had that Dunder one from Toledo Spirits, that was neat because I had some in the past, and this sounds terrible, or not terrible, but when I say it once tasted cleaner, that I think everyone might understand that from when you know what a Dunder pit is. It's just one had the light accents of it in it, where other ones were like heavily, like almost clinging still in there. And I was not always the biggest fan of the overly, what seemed to be like residue Dunder left in the rum. Go ahead.
I've got a couple of those and I love them, but they are for a very specific moment in time where you want them.
Yeah, Dave, that's what I see too. I was going to say when you mention rums, there's not many that come to mind for me even right now off the top of my head that I would be like, boom, to put us on that level. So, all right, let's see.
Mike, you're very quiet about rum.
No, I was just answering stuff. So I think it kind of goes
You
back
answered
to
it with America.
well, no, well, he said that's because we do. No, but with the especially American rums, don't you think that also goes back to, okay, well, we need to do something different because you can make a rye, or you can source your rye from MGP, or you can make a bourbon, or you can source your bourbon from MGP or Martin, or whatever. So, and that's fine, but how are you going to differentiate yourself? Well, let's do something different. And maybe it's because you're in, I don't know, Key West, Florida. So you're like, oh, it's perfect. This is rum country. Or we're in a shipping port town. It's like, all right, that's great. I think it does go back to what can, if you're gonna try to differentiate yourself, I can't even speak. You need to do something different and embrace it, and don't go after the top two, bourbon and rye. But I still think, as I said before, if the answer is what's the best spirits category, yeah, easily it is bourbon. But I think that's almost, I mean, like I said in the chat, that's just like saying, yeah, well, that's like saying United States produces more American football championships than anyone else in the world. Well, yeah, no shit. We didn't invite anybody else, as John Cleese says. It's easy to be world champion when you didn't invite anyone else to your game.
Well, when we're getting into the other ones, I'm almost at the point where I could argue that bourbon sounds like it, but rye or the single malt in whiskey might be a more solid category overall rather than bourbon.
So I think it also comes down to just historical context, right?
Okay, well, that's just the love of history. Yes, I agree with you. Go on, Mitch.
Well, I'm just saying, so, in the Caribbean, they had sugar and molasses and all that. So that is their history, and they have had the time to build that, And then you think about Eastern Europe and their rakias and their schlivovitzes and all that stuff. They have had that time to build that brandy heritage. And you look at America and it's like, what is our heritage? And it's corn and new oak barrels. So I think we do corn and new oak barrels better than anyone else. Like, I've had new oak spirits from other places, and I would say we do that better. And I've had corn spirits from other countries, and I would say we do corn better.
I think this is not just tooting the USA horn, but it is our best category is the one that the smaller distillers are driving. What are they pushing? Because the bigger ones can't pivot. Although people do come out with single malts and whatever, but the smaller ones do it. But I think where United States excels is, to sound like an idiot, good old U.S. ingenuity. And when you said that about corn whiskey, that it just hit me. Where else in the United States of America are you going to use your ingenuity except for to come up with corn whiskey smoked with Jimmy Red, smoked with Benton's hams?
Wow, that's a beautiful.
That's America's best category, is saying, screw you, this is America.
Right.
So I'm going to start whistling like on Animal House, and then just walk out the room, because that's it.
All right. If he just shuts down the screen and leaves, I'll respect that.
It would have been great if it's like, this is America black.
I think he's fucking done, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. There's a section with America. You get predecessor brandy was huge too, though. Like, that's something where I was gonna say.
Yeah. I mean, rum was our first spirit, though, right? Like, that was a big part of the slave trade, and that's kind of a early part of our history. We'll say that. But thank God we got away from that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just weird. But corn is a uniquely not United States of America, but just the Americas thing. And I think for the United States of America, like, the new oak barrel is a very American thing. And I think because of that, we do really, really well at that. And I would argue moonshine isn't our best.
I would say no.
I've had absolute garbage moonshine from large producers and small.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at it and, like Schlivovitz and Rakia, like, that's Eastern European moonshine.
But
you get
it has
out of that
one job, and it does its one job.
Moonshine?
No. Slivovitz, Rakia. It's got one job. Shots.
Yeah, that's
its
doing
job.
with it. I forget
Same
what it
thing.
is.
Same thing with vodka in a lot of countries. It's got one job to do.
People are coming over. You're having a couple shots. One when you get there, another one when you're eating dinner.
The bottle's not that expensive. You're going to go through several of them in a night.
Well, I have effed that up couple times then. Yeah, I really like it, and I sip on them.
Well, we'll not look down on you, but just remember, it's shots.
Well,
Next time wait, what are you sending us from wherever you were?
no, I got to talk to y'all about it because there's like 10 options, and I didn't figure you wanted to try 10 of them in a night.
Wouldn't be the first time.
We'll be,
Yeah, I'm
Mitch
trying
didn't
not
want to try
kill
10
you
of them in a
on
night. Mitch is like, we can do that on a Saturday.
You could do an early
Saturday,
show.
Saturday.
Yeah, we could do an early show too. We could start.
I one thing I do want to say, and it's not me like skirting the subject, or whatever. I just don't want to. I don't want to give the answer of bourbon. What's the best spirits category? I don't want to say bourbon, and I don't want to say rye because it's too easy. Be like, all right, tune in at 8:00. Bourbon, rye. All right, it's 8:05, guys. Got to go.
No,
I would argue it's not even rye because rye is like a historic European grain, and I have had
well, it doesn't mean that you can't
European
be
whiskeys
good at it.
made from rye that are really good.
Polish, the Polish rye that was
I've
always
had a
Polish
Polish
rye.
rye. There are several of okay, so the history of grain whiskey in Scotland's weird, but like they put out a rye grain whiskey that's really good, right? I've got a buddy from Germany who has, brought
You
some.
would think Germany would have some good rye whiskeys just from the belt that they're in, and that's just oversimplifying, but I would expect.
They drink a lot of beer, so it's not.
Yeah, I know that's kind of their thing
for them, but So I mean, that's why gin was my number 2 because I think we really we changed the category because we didn't legislate it the same way everyone else did. Like we might have written a similar law, but we didn't enforce it the same way. And then it just forced the market to change. And I think that's really cool. And I will say I have had one bourbon not made in America, illegal as it is, and it was absolute garbage. It was terrible. It was amazing in the fact that it was that unpalatable. Like,
Was it Boone's?
it was from Russia, so I don't know how to, but thank you for that.
Is that where he's sourcing from?
Boonsky.
But that's at the end we were saying it's bourbon. I consider it, but like it's up and coming. Where we say rye was coming up, they have it. It hasn't become super dominant. I think it's starting to level off, but you're also starting in the craft side. You're starting to see some more interesting things. But I don't know how much more of the market share it's going to take up. But as far as what's out there, I really like America's single malt category. There's a lot of that out there that I have been extremely pleased with. And how about this? That's at least my underrated category. I was going to say that might be my 2. I find that the most interesting, but I like berry notes and fruit notes, and they do come up more frequently in that. So lends myself that way more. Mitch wants to fight. I see you stroking your beard.
I don't want to fight about it. My argument for American single malt is I think it has the highest percentage of winners in it compared to every other one, where it's just like, this is good. Like, congratulations. Yes. You did it, you made it, you won. As opposed to like other categories where you're like, this is not good, or like this is thoroughly mediocre. Like I think American single malt has the highest percentage of just really good things in it, even though it's an incredibly small category.
It is, but that's my underlying, like, I think for me, it's one of the most solid for what's out there. But your gin one that's a very good argument because I'm just not as big a gin fan. So maybe that was biased thinking in my mind, but I like that answer, Mitch. That's a fantastic, that gin one is, especially for when we kind of resurged the marketplace, that's
helped at least.
Helped. But I didn't do. It kind of pushed back in a lot of areas and started, like you said, started to revamp it. So I don't know, but yeah, I know. Oh, Kevin's saying the rest of the world scoffs at it. Yeah, they do, but I don't know. I think that's just from not trying them. I think what you're getting in between a 5 to 10 year range is on par with what you get from most distilleries in the 10 to 15. Now that's aging and heat and climate issues at some points, but I think you're getting much better product at a lower age um, than you were with other countries. So I
Then you look at India and they put out something 3 years old that's magical, right?
Well, see, and that's where I was like the Philippines when I was like for like almost every category, they were coming up, and I was like, I don't know, like India, I know, single malts and stuff like that. I've had a few that were good from there, actually really good, but I haven't had any of the other things or anything from the Philippines. But to see like their name come up again and again, I'm like I would think it has something to do with the aging of it there. Can't just be the stills. I mean, the humidity and things were, but I don't know. Not New Delhi, just someplace in the Philippines. And if you're doing it there, you can only have, that would be weird. What if you aged it there for a year or two and then pulled it out of their climate and went someplace else where you could let it develop at a slower rate? That would be fun. Sorry.
I will say, kind of moving on slightly to brandy. I don't know if I have ever had a brandy from America that I actively disliked.
See?
Right. There have been some, not going to say like Orville or anything like that, where it's like, this is cheap and it's not like the pinnacle of spirits or what I want in my glass. But at no point was I just like, just slid it away and was like, thank you, I'm done.
Well, so I mean, like, you don't, because it's not the biggest one, but brandy, I don't know. I feel brandy's iffy because there's enough distilleries, or at least that I know of, around here in the surrounding states that have a brandy that gets to be on that syrupy side.
Well, yeah, because you've got a range of grape juice to very fine dessert drinking.
Well, I know, but I mean, even in those, the flavors can be kind of melded in and not feel like you're drinking feel like maple syrup flavor, like feel like it's the coating. I don't know. I like when they're playing with it and they're elegantly with it, not where it's like draped with everything over your tongue.
So that might be part of where I live, right? Like I live not far from Copper and Kings. So that is the lion's share of my American brandy experience. But even then, like I've had the MB Roland brandy. I had the giant Texas, whatever they are, brandy. I've had whatever was that, Distill America. And I haven't had one that honestly just made me go like, no, I'm done.
See, that's what I mean. Like, there's other ones that, like, if you think about it, the category itself is tighter. There's less misses coming out throughout it. Like that argument for the gin between Mitch's and Mike's is a good argument. There's very few misses per se on a smaller craft scale with something like that because you can't. And you did help revitalize a failing category, and you weren't the original mass producer of it, and you took part of their market share when you did it. That's fucking awesome.
I wouldn't say gin was a failing category, but I would say that it forced the category to evolve.
Okay, but that's just everyone has like a waning section. How about that? Because everyone rides a wave of comes to a certain level of prominence, and then you fade away at some point. Happened to bourbon, happens to it happens to all the categories, But yeah, okay. So I'll adjust myself to winning.
Sorry. Hey, Mitch, are you being pedantic and annoying?
See, and Dave was saying like Clear Creek and Wollersheim, Great Lakes. Yeah, there's a lot
I've
of
heard
that
those
out there
ratings.
where that's kind of the side I was getting at, whereas I'm like, there are a few categories where I'm like, the category itself might be tighter than the bourbon, because the bourbon has a lot of freeloaders, a lot of boons, a lot of stuff like that just hiding in there to creep up and absolutely ruin your day. I don't know. That was basically what I was trying to pick at with the question when I was sitting down.
Mike, your thoughts on brandy?
Well, I was just thinking I'm going to pour myself a brandy, an American brandy, a smoked apple brandy, aged in an Isla barrel, because who's going to innovate brandy more than the Americans?
So,
Mike's trying to get back at like the American category is fucking with the other category.
I think that might be the best. Yeah, like
that's it borders on Ricky Bobby comment. Greatest spirits category in America is just being awesome.
But I mean, like Dave alluded to it when he's like, we don't give a shit about how Scotland does their single malt. We're gonna do it our way. Mm-hmm. Like we do corn whiskey great because we smoked it with ham. Like whenever we basically go, like, hey, this is the category, yes, but
hold my beer.
We're going to be as elastic as possible right now, and I am going to try and do that. I think that's really when America just nails it.
Yeah. Let's have a bourbon filtered through Cheetos. Or it'd be a single malt. Have to be single malt because you got to compete.
Yeah.
America.
So one of the spirits I hope to send y'all is a whiskey that is triple pot distilled, and on the third time he takes apples and puts them in the still after he's smoked them for an entire day over hardwoods to give it a really good flavor. So if you think MB Roland Dark Fired, only it's not a bourbon, it's a whiskey, and there's apple notes in it, it's there. Like, it's insane. And he basically just went, hey, the whiskey and brandy category? Yeah. F them. Like, we're doing it. And he just made this beautiful thing that came out of it.
Scale filtered through a chicken breast. Sorry, just read. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I remember that. And Alan did distill apple fritters. I remember watching that happen that day. And apparently they were good apple fritters too. And I'm like, well, they would have to be. Why would you want to start with bad apple fritters?
If you're going to like make a cheeseburger spirit, you don't go, okay, McDonald's. What do you have on special today?
Okay, I'm not lying just because it's a
White Castle.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. I'm like, where do you
go? White Castle, you take that back.
Okay. But White Castle, if you were going to make a pachuga, right?
Is it the
White
onion
Castle
part of
pachuga?
If I made a pachuga, it would be a cheeseburger pachuga. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, right? If you make a pachuga out of what you eat and what you love to eat, like mine would be cheeseburgers.
Okay, that's a good one. White Castle, but where would you go, Mitch? Is there a different cheeseburger you would use? Like what?
Yes.
What's your favorite cheeseburger then?
Okay, so I'm really spoiled for choice here in Louisville because they tried to claim that we invented the cheeseburger. We didn't, but there's a lot of cheeseburger joints around here.
You were the first one to put cheese on a hamburger. Is that?
We were not.
We just weren't. Seymour stuff. I'm just kidding.
It is what it is. But man, if I had to buy the cheeseburger, so we've got a restaurant, Toasties Tavern. We've got Ollie's Trolley. Man, I can't remember what is the name of that place that I love to go to for their cheeseburgers? Whatever. But like nationwide, if I had to choose like just a solid cheeseburger to use, I would probably go Steak and Shake because
Okay.
they put out the 7x7 a few years ago and never took it off the menu, and that is an amazing cheeseburger.
Never heard of it.
Interesting.
I've never been to Steak and Shake either.
I only went there once, and it wasn't.
You're not missing a whole lot, but it's a pretty solid cheeseburger.
Mike, do you have it? Where would you go? I have one in my mind, right? I would want to see it happen, but
For doing a Pachuga,
yeah.
I mean, honestly, I would go, and it's not just because of where I live, but I would go to a barbecue joint. Yeah. Yeah. Get those drippings and the meat and everything else in there. Oh yeah. Scrape off all that trimmed fat, everything else. Yeah.
You're making like a hybrid, but I respect
You'd have a pretty sweet dunder pit. I mean, because you'd have chicken, pork, beef, ham, which is pork, yes, but you'd have pulled pork, ham, sausage, all that stuff. All that stuff in that dunder pit, and it'd all be smoked meats.
See, that's fair. That's not really a cheeseburger, but I respect the answer. If I have to go large scale, I would go In-N-Out Burger, double animal style with chopped chilies. The chopped chilies are a necessity on there. It sounds crazy, but I would throw that in there. Local, I don't know. I've been having you were here for my weird discussion about burgers and local. Everyone likes Kroll's in Green Bay, and they're overpriced, and the buns are rock hard, and it's just I went someplace else and it's better, but it's I don't have one that's like, damn, this is the place. I hate that.
For me, all right, so I had to Google it. It's Buns Burgers in Louisville, Bunz. It used to be on Bardstown Road, and you never knew when they were open. I love them to death, but I'm pretty sure, like when you went in there, you were like, it's really smoky, and they'd be like, yeah, our exhaust fan doesn't work that well, and it's like, this is weed. But they moved, and they're doing a lot better, but they have my favorite cheeseburger of all time, and oh my god, it's one of those things where it's a half-hour drive, and to get the cheeseburger and fries I want, it's like $21. So it's like, this is not an acceptable thing to do.
But hey, it's one of those things. It's worth the drive if you're doing it, though, right? Like,
thank God there's a drive. Otherwise, I'd do it way too much.
But then by the time you get home, is it done and you want more?
No, it is a very large cheeseburger and a lot of fries. The problem is once you eat the fries on the way home because you don't want them steaming in the styrofoam, right, and losing their crispness.
Yeah.
So then you get home and you've got effectively a steamed cheeseburger because it's been in the aluminum foil for 20 minutes, and it's just like, oh, this is so good, but the bun is just
squishy.
Yeah.
Bread goo.
If I had to say cheeseburger, though, there's two places that I would go for cheeseburgers around Kansas City. One of them is called the Westport Flea Market, and you go there, you can pay cash only for your burger.
Nice.
It's a damn good burger. They give you your burger, you put your own toppings and stuff on there. But then the other one is a little diner place called the Town Topic, and it is little tiny greasy diner, flat top fried burgers. And when I first moved down here, I worked until about 1:30 in the morning, and the guys that I work with told me, it's like, hey, when you get off work, because I want to go find some place to eat, and they said, oh, just go downtown Topic, make sure you get a patty melt. And so almost every night I would go and get a patty melt, and it had these beautiful fried grilled onions, on it and everything else. And I lived about 10 minutes from work. I would eat that burger, eat that patty melt, and within an hour it had left my system every single night. But I went back every night because it was so damn good. But that would make a killer Pachuga.
It's like I was thinking one that's got a little bit more grease and fat content, not
Oh,
necessarily one
this
that's like
had
running down.
all that. It was soaked in between the onions and everything else. It was just soaking in grease.
I like what you had with everything you were mentioning in Kansas City, but what about like a Chicago style sandwich where it's the
Chicago beef?
Yeah, Chicago
Yeah.
beef like
Yep.
that with the
That would do it.
Do a Cuban sandwich. Oh. So we have a barbecue restaurant here that does pulled pork on their Cuban instead of like roast pork. And oh my God, is that good. But could you imagine like the pork drippings and like that little bit of mustard and pickle to cut through? Oh, with like, yeah, all right. I should shut up and we should go back to spirits. Okay.
I know. That's why I was laughing. It's like, here we are. We completely got off topic.
Sorry, I don't even care. I don't feel bad about that at all. Because I was going to bring it back around because we're going to be tasting a pizza Pachuga that Mitch picked up. So there we go. See, I pulled it back. I got his background on
Reel it back in.
It's really good. I bought 2 bottles of it because I was like, well, it's not going to last long enough. Because, okay, so spoiler alert for everyone listening. I went to a distillery called 451. You should buy everything they have. It's absolutely amazing, but it's only sold in Ohio. And then I was just sitting there thinking, like, okay, if Morgan and I both like it, we should probably get 2 bottles. If Pat, Mike, and I like it, we should probably get 2 bottles. Trying to think, like, okay, this is really good. I should probably get like 2-ounce samples instead of 1-ounce samples, and then I'm gonna have it. So that's a lot of ounces out of 1 bottle in one night. Oh man, it was.
Gotta be love the salesperson watching you do the math. Like if he comes over, we're gonna need to.
So the salesperson and master distiller and everything else are the same person.
Oh, okay.
Just FYI.
That dude's got every hat.
Yeah. He designs the labels too. So he's an artiste.
Well, it's nice to have
Kind of like Lenny Eckstein.
Mm-hmm.
It does it all.
Oh, I like that. Just town topics for real. Kansas City. You know what? That would be a good summer trip. Go to Kansas City and not only try whiskey, but go around to barbecue joints. A double review.
No, pace yourself though.
A double review weekend. Come on.
I
don't have to eat everything.
Quantities of caffeine and painkillers, barbecue and distilleries.
I'm just saying that you don't have to get the full plate when we go to a barbecue place. You get
no.
You do have to get them. You terrible.
But you do need to pace yourself.
This word.
Pace yourself. That's what I mean. I don't need the meat sweats on Thursday evening.
No,
it's got Friday afternoon,
on Wednesday morning. Like
I told I met the owner of Town Topic a couple weeks ago. I was playing trivia with my friends. And this guy shows up and he's like, "Oh, said he owned Town Topic," and I work like 2 blocks from Town Topic. So I told him about me and the patty melt, and he was like, "That was my dad's." He goes, "That was my dad's thing," and there's 3 blocks apart from each other. And one of them is only open in the morning and then until 2:00, and the other one's open 24 hours. And they're 3 blocks away from each other. And we would order breakfast from there. This goes back to how good and greasy it is. We'd go because we used to get work at 5:00 in the morning, and then someone would order breakfast and walk down and go get it. And they would put the hash browns in a styrofoam cup, which of course funnels down. Well, by the time you go pick those up and come back, all the grease is run down into the bottom. So the hash browns are not real greasy and everything. All the grease is literally sitting in the bottom. So you just didn't break that final seal to make those the last ones drop down into the grease. But whenever they would order breakfast, depending on what people ordered, they would order from one or the other Town Topic. And one of the guy, he was a guy who'd worked there forever, worked at our place forever. It was like, why you pick one over the other? And he said, well, like if people are going to order pancakes and things like that, you want to get it from the one over on Wyandotte because it has cleaner fat chicks making your food that way. And we're like, what? So, but I mean, it was very crude and everything, but I have to say the pancakes were better from the one on Wyandotte than the other one, whatever his reasoning were. And I told the owner that story, and he just kind of looked at me like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" Like, I'm just repeating the story. But
Yeah, that's what I was told.
So interestingly, I introduced someone from Ireland to Waffle House a little bit ago, and I was trying. How would you describe Waffle House? It's one of those things where I was like, it's a terrible place that you always want to go to. And like, I was just trying to figure out how to put it, right? Like, it's not clean in any way, shape, or form, but you won't get sick. But you will feel like crap. But it's not because it's not clean. It's because of how unhealthy it is.
Yeah.
And he was just there like,
depending
I
upon
don't
the
know
time
if
of
I
day
do
you
or do
go.
not want to go there. And it's like, you do. You absolutely do. But you might not want to go back. And
it's not as commercial as Denny's.
Yeah.
well, he went in and he was like, they have hash brown bowls? I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, this is the best thing ever. I'm Irish.
They have potatoes here. Imagine that. Oh, sorry. All right. So I didn't realize it was that late. So we're going up on an hour, and we kind of slayed off topic at one point, but that's because the burger subject and Pachuga is an interesting because
Yes.
it does play off of like, what does America do better? My subject of just fuck it, we do whatever we want.
Whatever we want. No, but just seriously, a question though for you guys. Final answer after all the rambling. What do you think America's best spirits category is? Final answer.
It's got to be bourbon. And I would say gin is number 2.
I'm going. I like my single malt answer, but gin. You guys, your argument for that is really perplexing me, and it has me having issues because that's it's an interesting and not necessarily outside the ballpark argument or anything. It's down the numbers on both of them. I like that argument. I just can't talk myself into it yet. But I like single malt just because I said everything there I have seems to be a decent, or let's just a good quality. There's far fewer what the fuck happens with single malt for me. So I'm going with that. I don't know, I'm out of control. Mike? Oh,
I'm
Brandy too. Fuck, Brandy's up there too. Should be.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was trying not to say it, but I mean, I'd have to say bourbon, even though it's not the answer that I want to give. But the second one, I would definitely say American single malt.
That's fair. It was just one where like I was sitting and I'm like, there's some fair argument. It's not just bourbon. That's like here's a statement. You can try these. I understand both, but I love the gin argument. Sorry, that's going to be what sets me down later tonight, and I'm going to be thinking about that. Like the other ones, I saw and understood, and I just thought single malt was a little bit tighter overall, but that's probably because there's fewer of them. But that resurgence part and how much I'd want to look at market share, but I think that's a damn good answer.
That being said, Tanqueray also helped with the gin resurgence. So I don't want to like say it was all America, but America's laws regarding gin are slightly different because it has to be a what is it? It's majority juniper or something like that. Where most countries meant that meant 80% of your botanicals had to be juniper. People in America were like, wait a minute, does majority mean 51% or does majority mean like
The biggest
it
quantity.
has to be 1% more than the number 2 thing?
Yeah, like can we all be at 21, 20, you know?
So it's like, so yeah,
19.
if your next highest botanical is like 15% of it, does that mean that juniper just has to be 16%? And
Yeah.
it's majority, so yeah, so because Americans don't like listening and like laws for whatever reason, we really changed gin.
I like that. But no, other ones out here, good answers. Bourbon, American rye, brandy. Dave's followed by brandy. And brandy's another one too that, like I was saying, for the American single, very solid. It's not always my thing, and I've had a couple that weren't right, but I live in more of a ballpark where people are willing to take a swing and a miss, and they need to be in that lower price bracket around here. So that is part of those as well too. So not everyone makes one like Dancing Goat where it's lesser and tastes good. Usually that sub 15 mark is a scary area. But
that's where Pinnacle is.
I wasn't saying anything, Mitch. Damn it. I did. That's great. All right. Well, I think that is about good for us this evening. Make sure you stop in next. What?
Not tonight.
You know what? Not tonight, but I will. See, do we finish the flask before we go into Waffle House? Or
No,
finish it with the workers at Waffle
You
House.
put it on the waffles.
I don't know. I just feel like that's something you have to sip on when you're there. I don't know. This has to be worked out. But yes, I'm in, Kevin. I'm going to a Waffle House with you. I like the idea. It's not a bad idea.
It's a great idea.
All right. So like I was saying, remember to stop in next Monday night. We'll have another show. I do have some samples going out. I have a bottle going out to Mike tomorrow and samples headed to Mitch. One of them was from Great Lakes Distillery. And I forget what the other one I was sending you was, Mitch, but that was one of the bottles that we were getting. So we'll try that one coming up soon. And I don't know, there's a couple other things in the works at the moment, but make sure, like I said, stop out next Monday. We will have another show and we will see you then. Do you guys have something in your glass? I just realized I don't.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some pineapple rum. Hold on.
American apple brandy.
American grape brandy.
Pineapple rum. So remember, it's not just, ooh, holy shit, I forgot how fragrant this was from the, like it opened up my nostrils from out here. So remember, it's not the size of them that matters. It's the love of whiskey. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.